Hi everyone! In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make these super cute DIY resin bookmarks. First, let's start with materials you'll need. Obviously, you'll need some resin, and I chose UV resin because the bookmarks are actually quite small. Speaking of bookmarks, you'll also need some bookmark molds to pour the resin in. And since we're using UV resin, you'll also want a UV resin light to help cure the resin. Or you could use the sun, because that also provides UV light. But I like working at night, and there is no sun then. It's also helpful to have a lighter to get rid of some of the bubbles in the resin. Alright, moving on to decorations. I like using dried flowers for mine. I actually bought some off of Amazon, but if it's springtime, you can always dry your own. I also like adding some gold foil flakes. And of course tweezers for that super precise decorating. And I also got some tassels to attach to the bookmark. And last but definitely not least, you can't forget about safety. I use nitrile gloves to protect my hands, and a respirator to protect my lungs. You'll also want to make sure you're working in a well-ventilated space. So I was working by an open window with a fan blowing air out of my room. You want to make sure the air is flowing outwards, not inwards. And here are a few last setup things before we start. I always like to tape some paper onto my table just in case of any of the resin spills. And personally, I like to plan out my designs in a spare mold ahead of time. That way when you're pouring the resin and kind of working with it, you already know exactly what you want the flowers to look like. And on to the fun part, time to start pouring some resin and making these bookmarks. To start off, I like to add a layer of UV resin to the bottom of the bookmark mold. That way none of the flowers peek through the bottom. But don't add too much because you want to make sure you have extra space on top of the mold to add another layer of resin on top of the flowers. Next, you transfer the flowers from your template design over to the actual bookmark. Sometimes you'll find that the flowers move around a bit in the resin, but that's totally okay. After all, it's hard to make a design with dried flowers actually look bad. And after the first pass, if you're not satisfied with where some of the flowers are placed, you can always move them around because the resin is still a liquid right now. Then, once I'm satisfied with where all the flowers are placed, I add a layer of resin on top of all the flowers. That way, make sure all the parts are sealed. If I still see any of the flower pieces poking out of the resin, I'll use a tweezer to push them down. Next, I like to add some gold foil flakes as a nice decorative touch for the bookmark. You really can't go wrong with dried flowers and gold foil. And then I make sure all the gold foil is sealed in with another layer of resin. And we're almost done. I like to use the lighter to remove some of the bubbles from the resin, but you want to be careful not to use the lighter for too long because you might actually burn the resin. And once you're done with the design of your bookmark and everything is sealed in, it's time to cure it. The curing time will depend both on the type of resin you use and the strength of your UV light. Unfortunately, my flashlight was pretty weak, so I had to use this flashlight a bunch. I actually really recommend using a gel nail polish light for curing because then you can just let it sit and go do something else. After you're done curing one side, you also want to make sure you cure the back side of the bookmark as well. And once you're finally done curing, it's time for my favorite part, taking the resin out of the mold. It's always so satisfying to see your work of art come out and get the final result. And for a finishing touch, I added the tassel through the little hole on the top of the bookmark. And ta-da! You now have one super cute resin bookmark. Or I guess I have two here. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, you should also check out this one where I show you how to make super cute daisy bracelets like these. And of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more fun crafty content. Hope to see you next time. Bye!